Project called Decentralized Decision Making in DAOs, Learnings and for the Digital Democracy at Zurich University, and he has a pretty long, I would say, tenure in this field. So we are ready to learn and to hear and to be enchanted by your greatness and your studies. I'm also very dramatic, just for the record. Woo! Put your hands together. We love him. There you go.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Hi all. Good to see you all again. I have sort of two hats. I work for the Ethereum Foundation, but I also work with the University of Zurich on a project that is called Decentralized Decision Making in DAOs. That is with the Center of Democracy Research in Aarau, which is affiliated with the Uni Zurich. And today I want to talk about our paper that we'll present in 2 weeks at the DAVO conference in Zurich about democracy in DAOs. Or is there? Well, let's see. I mean, recently democracy has been sort of getting rug pulled, right? When we see a Trump coin being released, which is really just a vehicle for bribery. And also Pooja made some really good comments, also published a Time article on that. Still, we see the official Trump coin trending on CoinGecko. So yeah, what is it about democracy? And also, Amin Soleimani, just to mention one out of many, many voices in the space, is a bit critical when he says one of my more controversial opinions is that I don't believe everyone should have a vote. So yeah, I think funding the commons is a nice bubble, but we know that crypto is a rough space. And so the objectives of our paper was really to look at DAOs and the past kind of 10 years of rapid prototyping and explore which mechanisms have been used and which challenges arose around digital democracy specifically. It's a literature review, and so we've got a sample of 51 papers, which is somewhat of a narrow selection because we were quite specific on the keywords to be used, and this should certainly be expanded on. But I think the results give us sort of an idea of what's happening. And I mean, this is sort of also an attempt to reach the academic audiences across political sciences and democracy research. I don't have to tell you what DAOs are and how they look like, so this is probably not new to you. But I think on a larger abstraction, this is, I think, important work that my colleagues are doing when we are bringing these topics to relevant audiences who are doing relevant research, but have no idea that DAOs resemble topics that they are interested in. So some mechanisms we've identified is on-chain governance. That is, of course, very novel to blockchain versus the world. Subsidiarity is also a super interesting concept. When you see DAOs are often, they have different focal points of power. It depends on the design, but when you have sub-DAOs, when you have something like HATS protocol implementations, you can design architectures that are not hierarchical, but quite flat. And then also in this flat architecture, they have different buckets of hierarchies, perhaps. And Switzerland is one example of a real democracy out there that is relying heavily on subsidiarity. The European Union, to some extent, not really. But I think in DAOs, we have an amazing testbed to explore this principle further. Some other super interesting concepts. I'm going to pick those that are quite new, maybe to crypto. Wage quitting, of course, is interesting. Moloch DAO coined this term, where you really just take your tokens and exit. The network state movement recently also coins this term, when you just exit a nation state, build your own state somewhere far away from taxes, far away from regulation. Let the poor people be where they are, and have your small island where you can be crypto rich. I'm being very sarcastic here, but I think wage quit is something we should look at critically and see what is it being used for the good, and also what do we leave, what is the cost in terms of maybe solidarity or some other well-established social security safety nets. Forking, of course, super interesting concept, which is really hard to replicate in the real world. So open source repositories of constructs which allow anyone to pick it up, copy it, and modify it to a smaller or larger extent, and save the cost of innovation up to that point, whereas with proprietary systems, you really have to start from scratch, which is a very inefficient way of innovating across an ecosystem. Constitutions, very common in democracies, not so common in DAOs. Also, many terms are being used, like laws or community covenants and other more fun terms. But it's fun to see DAOs experimenting with that. Of course, accountability is an issue, and enforcement, I guess, in some sense, when it's about non-technical definitions of norms, of subjective things that are subject to interpretation. But things like Claros or arrogant court are an interesting way of even accounting for subjective things. Challenges are omnipresent. Concentration of voting power, as we know. Many DAOs are plutocratic, where you can buy tokens, which is very much not democratic. Voter apathy led to delegation, which is kind of democratic, but in practice, I think we see hidden structures emerge. We see service providers who are delegates and also charge DAOs for their services. So there's certainly a principal-agent problem and conflation of interests and incentives. Legal ambiguities everywhere, UX issues. Governance exploits are really interesting. Anti-capture.com is an interesting dashboard that is hinting at real threats to DAOs. They are also being very careful in their work because there's information out there on DAOs that are prone to be attacked, and they're just waiting for the right black hat hacker to take that exploit and run. So issues there. I'm being mindful of time. So I will, I guess, reference my talk in 2 weeks at the Uni Zurich if you want to learn more. But also want to highlight this quote from Nathan Schneider and colleagues, which I think is a really good conclusion, where he says, the role of blockchain may not be to transform existing democratic governance institutions, at least in the short term, but in enabling new novel forms of collective action that exist alongside traditional governance system. I think this alludes to a point which is really important to me when we see our space being sort of conflicted between the idea of exiting, building alternative, perhaps nation-state institutions, versus innovating within our democratic structures. And I live in Germany. I'm happy about the institutions that I have. I know many others in authoritarian regimes would certainly like to change their institutional structures. But I think it's worthwhile to be moderate and make an effort to innovate within our democratic systems rather than question this and believe that we can find a technical solution what is actually a social problem. Brief history of DAOs. I'm going to spare you of that because this is more for another audience that is not familiar with DAOs. This is from How to DAO from Konka and Ovoki. I also want to really briefly switch hats to the Ethereum Foundation, where we have a new team that is called the Academic Secretariat. It's a big name. We are just 2 people. So essentially what we are doing is we are coordinating academic research. We are allocating funding to begin with, continuing the academic grants round that's already running, and extending this. We are reaching out to both students and researchers. My colleague Sham is covering the technical sciences. I'm covering the social sciences. So if you are at all interested in academic research around Ethereum, and if you have ideas what should be done better, and perhaps outreach to disciplines who do research on fields that are important to Ethereum, they just don't know that they're actually solving problems for Ethereum and should be introduced to our long list of research problems, let me know. And also if you can think of communities that are working on causes, which we also work on the same causes, we are just divided by language and subject to crypto having a bad connotation out there. But you can probably think back of impact that we could have on domains out there based on whatever course you're interested in, whatever discipline you're coming from, and I would be happy to talk to you if you have any ideas or leads.
Only Switzerland can find something like that, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Amazing. thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm saying all the way in the back.